Welcome to the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, an unfiltered look into the global vacation and short-term rental industry.
I'm Mateo Bradford.
And I'm John Stokinger.
And this is our podcast. We bring the right people to the table at the right time, giving you an inside view and take on the short-term rental industry like no other podcast can.
Good morning, Mateo. How are you?
Good morning, John. Fantastic, brother. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. This is our first recording after the new year. This will be the second one that comes out this year. This is season 3, episode 27.
Yeesh.
That's the 87th episode we record. I'm super excited. Had a great New Year's. It was low key. It was actually an interesting fact. I think New Year's Eve, I was playing some Fortnite with Mr. Will Slickers before he passed out at like 7 o'clock that night. So that was kind of interesting. But we pretty low key with the family, which was great, and excited to get some big things I think that are happening for me personally this week. I think I should be, signing the dotted line on a new role. So I'm excited about that. That is not official yet. So I'm waiting for that to come through. But how about you? How was yours?
Man, it was a great time to just be relaxed, man. Like I enjoyed it. There was so much madness going on everywhere with flights and, the family got caught up with all of that, so. But I have to say, man, 2023 feels different. So, again, everyone made it through the holidays, just grateful through the holidays, like all the madness and everything that people were going through, yourself included, like it brought a new perspective to the new year, man, of just like, even when things like go haywire, like we're just super blessed, man. So blessed for you, blessed for this podcast. I'm ready.
Blessed
to
for
go
our guests.
Man. Yeah, blessed for our guests. We're starting off with a bang, man, and I love it. So let's get right
story with our guest. We've been trying to connect for, I think it was probably since our 20th episode or somewhere in there. It was early on. I had chatted with this gentleman. He's another one across the pond. I'm excited to get another one on here. In his story, he's been doing this a long time. So I'm going to let him tell his story. But welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Maughan of I-PRAC. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on. Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Been waiting to get on here for a good few years now. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's you were there and then you fell off for some reason. We couldn't align, and then we got to, we're here now. So I'm glad.
Now, that's the main thing. That's the
and
looking forward to it. Yeah, looking forward to 2023. I think there's a lot of good things happening for the industry. So it's all good.
Yeah, I feel positive, even with all this, gloom and doom and the R word, or recession and all these things. I feel good about 2023. I think that those that have prepared and those that have built a solid foundation, this is not going to be the, such a downturn that, you're not going to be able to ride out. I think those that are resting on laurels and resting on, maybe not necessarily, going the straight line, might have a little bit harder time this year, or relying too heavily on outside sources that they cannot control, might have a little bit harder time this year. But I think the companies that have put the work in and have invested in the right things, whether it be software or trust or whatever, are going to ride this out just fine. And you're going to really set themselves up for a great 2023 and beyond. Let's talk about you though. Holy shit. You've been doing this in our space in the hospitality sector for like over 22 years now. Yeah. How does Mr. Chris Maughan, how do you stumble into this space? Like I look at your, LinkedIn, and it just, 22 years, you don't really show before that. Yeah. Well, but how do you come in and build such I don't want to say empire, because that's not correct, but how do you build a reputation and build what you've done, and how do you stumble into that?
Well, I've always been in hospitality since I was 16. When I was 16, I started working in hotels, but in the health club side, like the leisure side, so like the health clubs.
Right.
And then I used to work for, back then it was called Swallow Hotels. But recently, that was bought out by Marriott like a lot of years ago. So when I was working there, it was Swallow Hotels. Now, obviously, it's Marriott. So but I learned a lot from that experience of like being 16 and understanding what the level of hospitality service comes, what service was really about back then, because that was really one-to-one. There was no social media. There was no real kind of like connection on the internet. So it was all like really making sure that your guest had a fantastic experience. That's how you made an impact. And then from there, I went to private health clubs, which I went to work for a private health club, which basically had 28 huge health clubs. And I became the sales and marketing director there at like 19.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, which was pretty overwhelming. but I think from a young age, I was always prepared to try, new things and just have a go at it, So, and I was there for about 3.5 years when the owner of the club wanted to build a health club in the south of France. Okay.
Excellent.
So I was in the north of England in the UK. This guy wanted me to go down to the south of France and look and do all the logistics to see whether it was a possibility for us to build a health club in the south of France. Mm-hmm. So off I went, and I spent 6 months doing all the due diligence and looking at the sites and looking at all of how it would all work, the marketing side of it, the pricing. And my report came back, basically just said that it didn't stack up, Now I would have loved to say that it did, and then kind of like take the job in the south of France. But but that was the point when he said, well, okay, well, it doesn't matter then, we're not going to do it. Like, okay, come back up to the north of England, And at that point, I was just I'd spent 6 months in the south of France in Cannes, and I'd seen how the corporate market of short-term rentals was working, because it was already there and there was a massive market, but it wasn't, for me, I was looking at it from my experience in hospitality and service, thinking it isn't really done to the level it should be.
Mm-hmm. Right. Especially considering you're in Cannes, there's
exactly. And I'm thinking there's a massive missed opportunity here. There's nobody really looking at it thinking, I'm going to take this by the balls and have a real good go at it,
Yeah.
So I had a decision to make, and I kind of just said to my guy back in the UK, and it was a very good job, I had a lot of, there was a lot of on the scope of going up the ladder, in this company. And I just said, I'm not coming back. I'm just going to stay in Cannes. And I told all the family I'm staying in Cannes, I'm not coming back and everything, and it was just like a bit of a whirlwind to a degree. And everybody said, well, what are you going to do in Cannes? I mean, you don't speak French, you don't do this, you don't do that, and I just said, I'm going to set up a short-term rental company and be the best at it. And everybody said I was crazy, I was mad, I'd fail. It's great, no problems. That was their opinion. And off I went. So I started with a studio with no money and just, focused straight away from the start.
And is this in 2000?
Yeah.
Approximately 2000 is when you parted ways with the health club and you're in the south of France and you're all right.
That's it. Yeah. 2000. So I was like 25 years old. Right. And that was it. So I just started with like pretty much nothing, but I had a real understanding of what we needed to do. So we really started off at the start. It was like brand was going to be everything. Reputation was going to be everything, because I looked at what everybody else was doing. And if we were going to just jump into the space and just follow suit, then we would just get eaten up and we just wouldn't get recognized, and we just wouldn't, we'd just end up being a small player. And, and that wouldn't have worked out very well, Well, that wasn't my ambition. So I decided to go in with a different kind of play on it. Basically looking at the standard of properties was very low. The service was very low. Marketing was pretty much non-existent to a degree, but social media didn't really exist then to the level it does today.
Right.
But it was all about brand, reputation, product, service, retention, conversion. All of these were my key words that I'd learned in the health club business, so I could bring all of that knowledge to the table. And that's what I did. And I just put my head down and just really went at it. And, I ruffled a lot of feathers at the start,
Can you talk about ruffling feathers? Like, what do you mean by ruffling feathers? Other than you, there's this kid 25 years old that's
Yeah.
coming in. I got a short-term rental business.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to do it. And you
Yeah.
guys are all, everyone else is doing it wrong. Is that what you
Basi-
mean? Like,
yeah, that's
I'm
basically what I
sure
went in.
that ruffled a hell of a lot
Yeah,
of feathers
yeah,
in
yeah.
and of itself.
Yeah. So I was like going into like competitors' offices and saying, give me your best 5 properties and I'll rent them. Because my brand's the one that rents the best properties, not yours. So I was
love
like, yeah. So I was like really going hard at it, you know, and then at one point I had like 6 of my competitors all trying to get me out, you know, so it was like a bit of a battle going on. I
right.
was getting like, you know, the English guy turning everything on its head.
Mhm.
You know, it was quite a funny time, you know, but you had to be very persistent to kind of like, you know, because it went on for about 18 months, you know what I mean? So it's
Well,
not
I mean, and again, this is door to door. This
yeah,
is phone calls. This is not, it's different now. You're not just sending emails. I mean, you
Mm.
were a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
not, you know, again, the social presence wasn't there. You know, the
Mm.
internet became a thing in the early 90s, but it didn't really hit, you know,
yeah,
social
exactly.
didn't hit till mid 2000s.
Absolutely. So our marketing was kind of like, I was going to like a designer and basically designing like really like flyers that were really kind of controversial to a degree where we were putting other agencies down and putting ourselves up. And that was a strategy. I mean, I wasn't trying to upset anybody. It was basically, I needed to make the noise to basically for people to sit around and go, let's have a look at what this kid's doing kind of thing, you know? But then I had to back it up with
Right.
what our website looked like, you know? So nobody was investing heavily in website. I didn't have a website at the start. And the way that I built my website was through contra deals. I didn't even have any money to build the website.
Right.
So I was doing a contra deal, basically saying to a web designer, look, I mean, this was a funny story how we got like the website launched. I went to a web designer who was doing the best websites at the time, right? And I said, look, I want you to build me a website with like a short-term rental website that's really high level compared to anything that's out there on the market. I want to make sure that we're concentrating on brand. If you don't know what brand is, go and study it because I need you to be on point with what we're trying to do. And he went, yeah, came back 2 weeks later and he said, I can build the website. It's going to be 6,000 euros, right? Now, this is like 20 odd years ago, right? 6,000 euros. So nobody was investing that kind of money in a website back then. So I said to him, I says, look, I want to go with this, right? But I don't have 6,000 euros, right? So I said, what I'm going to do is you're going to come down to Cannes. This guy was based in the UK. You're going to come down to Cannes with your family for the next 3 years, 2 weeks in the summer for the next 3 years.
On you.
And stay in one of our luxury apartments for free. And that's going to cover this. And that's going to cover the 6,000 euros. That's a value of about 20,000, by the way, right? Mm. So he jumped on that, right? And we did this contra deal contract. But at the same time, I didn't have the property where he was going to go, did I? Right? So, yeah, this is the funny part.
It's just some cart in front of the horse shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, but this is like when the risk factor comes in and just kind of like the entrepreneurial kind of mindset, like to make sure, just to get shit done.
Right.
To make it happen, like not like, look, you know, like I'm a big believer, if you can't get in the front door, go around the back. If you can't get in the back, go through the window. You can't get in the window, go through the chimney. You can't, you know, find a way.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. You have to find a way. And so anyway, I went to this really, like an owner who had a really nice property. And I said to him, look, this is the website we're building, right? What I'm going to do for you is, you're going to be on the homepage of our website for the next 3 years as our premium property, right? That you're going to feature on the homepage of our website. But what you've got to give me is 2 weeks in the summer for the next 3 years.
Love it.
Right. And he said, yeah, I agree. So I did the deal. And that owner today is still with me 22 years later. And he's got about 15 properties now. And
I love it. I love the handshake around like circle deal. It's like a sports trade. Like you're going to 3 different teams and you're going ahead and leveraging some minor league contracts and I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And then once this website was built, right? Once this website was built, and then we put this flyer out to the whole of Cannes and literally went into putting it in all of the letterboxes of property owners, putting it like literally, there was one for property owners, there was one specifically targeted for other agents. So the one targeted for agencies was to ruffle the feathers, to like really shine a light on our brand and who we were. but then we did have to back it up, otherwise we would have looked stupid. But then also from the owner's side, the owners were looking for that premium company who was going to manage their property that they couldn't find before. All of a sudden, this English company with a really good website who's concentrating on trust and brand and all of these kind of service, automated kind of systems. Then they were like, we want you to manage our property. So all of a sudden we were winning all the property management deals. And then because we were ruffling the feathers in Cannes, quite a small place, we started getting a lot of traction of like, who's this AES people? Who are they? Who are what they're doing? And it just kind of grew from there.
How long did, so and this is 2000, you do this deal, you give this cat 3 years, everyone's got like this 3-year agreement. How long today you're at what, 250 ish?
200. Yeah. We managed 250 apartments, but 23 of them are owned by us.
Okay.
So 23 of our own apartments.
Nice.
So, I mean, but from, and obviously, each year you scale differently, but how long before you're like, holy shit, we made it? Or like, we got 20 properties or we're at 50 properties. Like, what was that big, like, aha moment to you? Like a big F you to everybody else there.
Yeah. I mean, we got to 50 properties probably within about 18 months.
Wow.
Yeah. But the other thing as well is we probably could have got up to 100 properties in 18 months, but we were very selective of what we were trying to achieve. So when people were calling us and saying, listen, we've got a 3-bedroom apartment on the Croisette, we want to rent it. And, we would like to, okay, we'll come and visit it. We would go and visit it. And then we would say, no, this doesn't suit our product. All of the products that we list on our website have to be at a certain quality and a certain presentation, a certain standard. So we would say no to a lot of them. So we got to 50 properties, but the 50 properties that suited our brand.
Right. So that doesn't count the ones you had to weed out. And say no.
But this is the problem that a lot of people do today in this industry. They just think that taking all of the properties, the most properties that they can get, putting them on like Airbnb and on their own, direct website. But if you look through the site, you find too much kind of differentiation in the standard of the properties. And, so you can say you're a luxury brand, but then you're saying that then why are you proposing to rent this piece of shit?
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got to be very careful about what properties you say that suit your company.
Yeah, scaling at what cost, right? If we're talking brand, at what cost? It has to suit your brand, it has to suit your vision, your mission statement, and everything you're about. If not, and it's fine if a company wants to break out into, say, like I know a company that quickly scaled to 150 properties, and they came out early as like a luxury focus, and then they realized, oh shit. We can offer, but they've had to segment. They had to segment and break their brand up into 2, and then it still works because they're not calling, that's the calling it what it is.
Yeah, that's the smart way to do it because it's like running 2 different companies.
Yep.
You're not trying to like put everything into the same basket and then try to let people to choose, because you could be trying to attract a luxury client. Now, a luxury client thinks completely differently to a low budget client.
Yep.
So if the luxury client's on your website and there's a possibility you can rent that, if you're promoting that you rent this, that brings in a lot of uncertainty. That is this really the company that we want to work with? Because people who've got money to work in luxury or rent luxury, they've got a different mindset.
Yep.
So you've got to understand that. So you've got to change that. So you when somebody arrives on your website, they're like, this is where I need to be.
Right.
I am in the right place.
Yep.
And the interesting thing too is when you are able to be choosy and picky and either not accept them or look at your inventory and fire homeowners and like every year go through and get rid of your 5% or 10% of your inventory of that is just not performing, and then refill that with inventory that will perform. These are all positive things for whatever brand you're building. You have to be conscientious of what you're putting out there, and does it perform, and does it meet the standards?
Absolutely. This is why it's important for any, like you say, for any business, but certainly in the short-term rental space, because you have to know who you're going after. Mark Simpson says it a lot, find out who you want to target, like your avatar. because you can't go after everybody because you'll end up with nobody, you know. And I think that's where you've got to differentiate and say, right, who do I want to be, and have a real strong focus on achieving that. And that was my vision very, very at the start, you know. And that's when we got our first big corporate client was MTV, who came to Cannes, and they contacted us through a partnership that we'd created.
Okay.
And because basically we were out there doing contra deals, doing partnerships. I was going, yes,
smart.
I was going to all of the hotels. I was going to all of the people who organize the congresses, saying, I'll be your official partner. We'll do this. We'll give you commission. You know, we were doing it in a different way. You know, we were making sense to everybody in terms of owners. We were guaranteeing payments. We were structuring everything correctly, proper contracts, and people just liked what we were doing. You know, we were shaking the tree. And when we got MTV, and we provide, you know, MTV wanted like a certain amount of apartments. We didn't have them. Didn't have all of the apartments that they needed at that time. And so that was when I went to our competitors and I said, listen, give me your best 5 properties, because I've got a client who's going to rent them. You give me your best 5 properties and the price, and I'll pay you that price. Okay. Because these people didn't understand the corporate world. They didn't understand how to charge a corporate price.
Right.
You know,
different price, and it's okay.
They didn't have a clue. They were thinking a corporate would pay the same as a tourist, and it's like, you know, corporate. If you take away all the uncertainty and tick all of the pain points, corporate will pay what's needs to be paid. You know, if we've got that, you know, within that budget. So we got MTV. We did it anyway. We got 50 apartments. They rented like 90 people came down from MTV around the world. Came to Cannes. We, you know, smashed the service. We did everything, daily cleaning, airport transfers for everybody.
Well, I mean, you do event stuff too, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not.
That came later because of MTV.
Oh, okay, perfect. Great future segue.
Yeah, MTV were actually our first accommodation client, but then after that, what we found out was that MTV did like the big Cannes Film Festival villa, like a really exclusive Cannes Film Festival party where, like, you know, all of the big A-listers went, you know, the Tom Cruise and all of these people. And they reached out to me and said, listen, we want you to do our villa next year. Is that possible? And
you're like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Thinking, I'll figure it out. You know, I'll say yes and then work it out after. And we did it. And we got this really unbelievable villa. And that's when it kind of like, I went into a different level, because basically we rented this villa for like, I think we paid about 90,000 for the villa to rent it for the 10 days. And MTV were paying like 190,000.
Yeah.
Like we were earning like 100,000 off this, like just the villa rental itself, right? But then MTV said, "Oh, you need to speak to our creative team." So yeah, no problem. So we started the creative team, like saying, like, we're going to come out and do a site visit of the villa. Now we've booked it. So they came out, right? We want to remove all that furniture completely. We want to design a marquee in the garden. We want this. We want that. We want to paint the whole villa white inside.
What?
I never heard of this before. So, you know, I was like, yeah, but I can't just paint an owner's villa, like, just because you wanted to. And this creative guy said, ask him, we've done it before. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to him. So I went to the owner. I said, look, they want to paint the villa all white, but they'll put it back to exactly how it was. Can we do that? And the owner of the villa went, yeah, okay. Yeah, as long as they put it back to how it was, and they want like a 15,000 euro premium on top of the I said, okay. So I went back to MTV. I told them there's a 30,000 euro premium, you know,
right.
You know, and you've got to put it back how you want it. That's going to take 7 days. So you've got 7 days more rental to pay. And MTV were like, yeah, it's fine. It's not a problem. We just need to get it done because the party's important. And so the whole thing came to like 260,000.
Wow.
Whole deal. And that kind of set me into a different trajectory, because I thought there is so much money in the event side. So we need to start splitting and having an accommodation department and an event management and rental department.
I mean, you're working with big brand. I mean, you're working with Google and
Spotify, Disney, the big boys. Yeah. So, but this is the thing. We leveraged MTV. right? Because as soon as MTV were our client, the first thing I said to MTV is, I need to put your logo on our homepage that we're an official accommodation partner for MTV. And they go, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I said, but because of that, I'll include the airport transfers for the next Congress. You know,
Right.
It's like, you know, I'm always into like, I'll take, but I'll give. Because I think any deal, if everybody's happy and everybody's getting something out of it, it can last longer. You know?
100%.
Well, that's the key to a partnership, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's the key to a true partnership, right? It is mutual benefit. It is
absolutely. You know, that's why a lot of the partnerships within the SDR space they don't flourish because they're not built on the right structure.
Say it again.
You just see a post on social media saying they partner them, and then that's all you see.
Yeah.
Like, but you haven't.
Bullshit.
There's no structure. Yeah, it's bullshit. There's no structure behind the partnership. There's no flourishing of the partnership. There's no two ways for both parties to benefit from the partnership. So it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, partnerships are not just like, you know, like going out for an ice cream. They really need like structure and commitment from both sides. And if you don't agree to that at the start, then there's no point getting involved.
Man, you're preaching to the choir. And I think the industry's this is a newer concept for the industry, right? Like real strategic partnerships that are mutually beneficial and are metric for growth, right? Like
absolutely. Yeah.
But
don't just put a logo there and then forget about the partnership and then don't, you know, because it just turns into nothing, you know, like you see a lot of that today. You know,
and in paying, there's a lot of like paying for partnerships, right? And you know, it only goes so far. Like you're paying for logo placement, you're paying for, you know, better traffic, you're paying for a couple different things. But if you know, when only one person is scratching that back, you know, it's gonna die someplace. And then there's not only is it gonna die, people are gonna be butthurt about it. You know, there's gonna be some bad blood, and now you got to patch that shit up. It's not as simple as be like, oh, this isn't working anymore. Now there's bad blood and it's not working anymore.
Yeah. Partnerships have to be really well thought through and structured for them to really nurture the right way and for them to become positive and beneficial to both parties. That's for sure. You know,
and it takes time and effort.
I've learned that over the years.
Yeah, you can't just put the logo out there. You know, it takes work, right? Like, and it takes consistent work from both parties to.
Well, it's right.
It's not just a set it and forget it thing, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when we do a partnership, whether it's with AES or I-PRAC, I've got like a 12-month plan of the partnership written out, like what you have to do, what we have to do, and then we have like if there's an email to go out by your side, that email's already agreed. Like 3 months prior to the date that it's going out, you know? So the whole partnership is structured for like, well, you know what we're doing, you know what you've got to do. And it's all listed and it's being designed beneficially for you to tap into my database and me to tap into your database. And that's how we're going to do it. So there's a webinar on this day, there's a webinar on that day, the marketing goes out this day, and it's structured.
And it's just like, and there's introductions, you know, and it's just like, you know, building relationships. A partnership is just like you know, our relationship, and on a personal level, we're also taking this a step further and we're doing this on a level that is company wide, you know, hey, let me introduce you to this person. I've done business with them for 15 years, and this is why this is beneficial. And it's been beneficial to me. I think you guys would be a great fit.
Absolutely, because you know the values of that company when you work at that level. You think the CEO of that company won't let a partnership fall below the line.
Right.
So I can guarantee that if you go into partnership with this company, it's going to be beneficial to you as a brand as well. I can vouch for that because I know the values of that company, and that's why it's important to make sure that when you go into a partnership, and I've done it before, you know, I've said, no, we're not going to partner. They're like, really, why not? So because our values don't align. You know, this partnership's going to die out in 3 weeks. And I can see it coming. And I just don't want to waste the time, effort, and also look bad as a brand by not following through what we say. So I think partnerships with like in contra deals is something I learned a lot in my younger days. But I've always kind of developed it and I've studied it and I've brought it to the table in all of my businesses that I own today. But what I was saying is we leveraged MTV that logo. So when all of things like people like Google and Twitter and all these other businesses were coming onto our website, because all of a sudden we now had that website that people needed to see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was the best one, but it was also that it had the best properties, and our content was all about trust, and our content was focused towards the corporate market, the corporate mindset. So all of a sudden, when corporates were getting onto our website, they were like, this is the company for us. This is the company we've been searching for years, So we were in that good position. So now the job was to get the company, the website out there, which is what we did. And then people like Google were coming on saying, well, look, if you're the official supplier for MTV, you've got to be doing something right. So we'll give you a chance, and
Love it.
And so then we had Google, we did Google accommodation, and we got Google event space, and we got Twitter, we got Spotify, we got Disney, we do all of these other accommodation and events. Yeah. But there's one thing that you have to be very careful of is if you say you're going to do something,
you better fucking do it.
Yeah. Because you can win because I've said to all these people, I say to people all of the time, winning the clients isn't the hard thing. Because winning a client can be done through sales.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Keeping the client is done through service. So anybody can bullshit a sales. You can say this, look, you're going to get this. We've got 24 hours security. We've got this, we've got that. But all of a sudden, when you arrive, and all of a sudden, this isn't what you said it was going to be. You've lost reputation. You've lost your brand reputation. So all of a sudden you're gone. You're not going to get that repetition.
Well, and just thinking, when Google starts talking shit about, you or you're talking about, again, it's trust and it's service. And if you might've came through with, for MTV, and you might've came through for Twitter, but then, you don't come through for somebody, they're chatting, they're all on the same,
they're all in the same,
they're hobnobbing together anyways.
They're all in the same C-suite kind of network,
right.
So they can read. I mean, we've had people move from Google to like other companies, and they've said, listen, if I'm in charge of Cannes, I've already got a great contact in Cannes. So they move from Google to Twitter or wherever, or another corporate and identity, and they're taking their contacts in Cannes, because at the end of the day, they've found that kind of gold dust of like, and my team in Cannes, they know our values as a company are like really high, like everybody wants to work for our company because of how we operate. And they know that delivering is just like, has to be, because I've like kind of drummed that into them. It's like, I would rather lose money than reputation.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Well, and let's talk about that. I mean, we're talking about building on the back of trust. We're talking about, we built these relationships and everything you've done to get to here. Like, what was like that, where and when did you say, you know what, we really need to go ahead and get this accreditation. We need to develop I-PRAC, and, let's talk a little bit about I-PRAC.
Sure.
That is obviously you're still running all, your accommodations, your events, you're doing I-PRAC as well. Yeah. Let's talk about I-PRAC, because I think that, this is going to resonate with our audience.
Absolutely. So basically, I started understanding trust as a real strategy was probably back in 2006, when we were working with Disney, and I went out for dinner with the two directors who were like, we was, serving the two bosses, and we sat down, we had dinner, and I was like, look, I need to ask you this question. Why do you use AES? I need to know, because it's part of, for me to get better as a brand and as a company, I need to know why you use us and where we could improve. Right. So these two guys, well, one guy, one girl, they said, oh, that's simple. Now I was thinking at that particular time in my knowledge that they were going to say your product is the best, your service is on point, and your pricing suits our. I was thinking it's around that. That's what they're going to say. Right. And you just try and go, oh, no, that's simple, man. We trust you. Mm. That was it. And I was like, you trust us. So all of a sudden I was thinking, wait a minute. So in 2006, I got this light bulb moment of, this is all about trust. It's got nothing to do with anything else. So if somebody trusts you, because when I said trust, he said, yeah, because we know we're not deluded to think that there's not going to be a problem or something might happen. But what we do is we trust that you will deliver, and we trust that you will solve a problem. So we've got trust in your company. That's why we use you. So we can sleep at night. We've got peace of mind and we don't have any kind of uncertainty about using your company. So I was thinking, this is all about trust. So I had to flip everything around, and I said to my team, I says, we're changing all of the marketing, and we're not doing any product marketing anymore. All of our marketing is going to be based on trust and reputation and what we deliver and our values and our mission statement. That is all of the value that we want to put out there, right? Because that's what people are interested in. Nobody's going to buy from you or rent from you until they trust you.
Yeah.
So we started changing it all around, and then we started doing it. And that's when our company really took a massive trajectory into like more, like we went from like 60, 70 properties to 140 properties, bigger clients, bigger partnerships. We just had, we went to like I don't know, I think that was the year we hit 10 million turnover as a company. That was like, wow, brilliant. From a standing start, it's pretty cool. Yeah. And that's when, so all of a sudden I was in like, trust, and this is the way to do it. And I was building it, and it was costing me time and money to build trust, right? And then one day, our office got a call from a family. This was in 2014. A family of husband and wife, 3 kids, had arrived in the south of France, got in a taxi, arrived to this luxury villa. They'd paid £15,000, which is probably like $20,000. Mm-hmm. And they arrived at an address, and this villa didn't exist, right? Just a brick wall.
Just an Airbnb scam.
Yeah, same thing. So they called our office, and basically they're looking for accommodation because they were stranded. So you can imagine a husband and wife with 3 kids stranded, like suitcases, not speaking the language, lost £15,000. Pretty scary situation, right?
Right.
Well, anyway, we sent a car, got them down to our office. We helped them out. We put them into a really nice apartment, and got them settled and different things. But what I witnessed that day was kind of like something that I was like, I can't understand how this can happen, because I'd focused my business on trust. I wasn't really worried about what anybody else was doing and the industry was doing,
Right.
So then I started doing some research and realized that this wasn't like a one-off incident. This was like the Wild West. That for a consumer, this was like lottery. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
And I thought, we can't have an industry like that. We need to be able to differentiate the professionals and the trusted operators through an accreditation. So that was the idea.
Well, and the interesting thing about the idea of I-PRAC for me, and we talk a lot about brand, and you talk about brand, like, the accreditation itself, I-PRAC is a brand. Like, it is like, we're talking about brand, an accreditation brand, and being like, when in turn, it brings these operators, however they are, if they get the accreditation, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it brings them into some sort of brand, whether they're part of your hospitality brand, it's still a brand.
Well, they're under the umbrella of trust. Like what we've created at I-PRAC is it's the brand of trust for short-term rentals. So if you want to differentiate yourself, come in, be part of the community. You've got your logo, you've got your certificate. You go out and showcase and just tell the world that you're I-PRAC certified and you're a trusted operator. And if you pay me, all of your payments are guaranteed by I-PRAC, because we've got an underwritten insurance through Lloyd's that guarantees all payments made to our members, purely because of the robust application process they have to go through. Because we're not just ticking a couple of boxes here. We have to, it's not easy to become I-PRAC approved. If you're a legitimate operator, you will pass, but you've got to provide a lot of supporting documents. You've got to go through 3 different stages. Then we put it to our approval team, who then check social media. They do photo reverse recognition on the website.
It's similar to going through like an underwriting process.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's detailed. And, so some people are like, yeah, I'm not going through all that. Fine. We don't want you.
Right.
Because that's the thing, what we're trying to create here. So like people say, you need to make the process more simple. And I've said, we can't make it more simple and be as robust as we are, that we need to be. So if you want it more simple, just go and make your own badge up. But there's no guarantee, like when we decided to do I-PRAC, we had to really study the market and how would we bring a brand to the space that could be digital, recognized, global, but also hold accountability.
Mhm.
And that was the key factor, because the key factor was accountability, because I was looking at my other logos and it's like, but that's easy to copy and put on a fake website.
Yeah.
So we're not really solving the problem. So how do we solve the problem of accountability? It's like, so we had to build technology with the I-PRAC logo so that every I-PRAC logo is different. It's unique to that member. And that's why each logo is designed through a technology that issues the logo with their own ID number in the logo. So nobody can copy it. As soon as you type in the ID number into the I-PRAC website, it shows that member's profile, the name of the company, when they joined, the certificate, the last 5 digits of the bank account, their phone number, all of these different things. So you can't copy it. So that's where
I love that, by the way. That's super brilliant.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you've got accountability. So all of a sudden it's like, no, you can't just copy the I-PRAC logo. You won't get away with that. You know? So all of a sudden it means the logo holds value. Okay. I spent 150,000 on a website which we had to crash because we picked the wrong company to do it, but that's another story.
Oh.
But but I've invested all of my own money to build I-PRAC. No investors. Only about 2.5 million.
How's the adoption been? And I mean, you've been doing this now for what?
2016.
Okay.
2014 was the idea.
So 16, you've been doing this for 6 years. So we're on year 7. How's the adoption? Did you just start locally in Cannes and in the UK, and then we know it's over here in the US. It's available in multiple countries.
28 countries now.
How many?
28.
28. I mean, what's the adoption, and are your clients being seeing that value? I mean, they should, especially if they were getting screwed in the past.
Absolutely. Well, there's different ways to look at it, because it's like, I mean, we went out straight away. We didn't start small. We went out, we spent 2 years on R&D. So we had a team working on the actual development of the tech and the website itself and all of the application process and different things. Then we had another team who were like onboarding countries, so that we were contacting countries and governments to be able to understand their process of like what their passport number, what systems they had in place to check a passport number or a utility bill. And we had to do all of these different things to get a country on board, like as listed. Because when, some documents, if you apply to become in Australia, the documentation is a little bit different if you want to come and apply through the UK.
Right.
So there's certain it's the same document, but just a different format, So we had to onboard all of these countries at the same time, but that was going on during the R&D during 2014 and 2016. And we launched in 2016 in April with 28 countries. So we didn't start off small. But to go back to your question about the value, again, I don't think the industry is ready for it, even today, right? They're not ready for the global phenomenon of accreditation. A lot of the professionals of our industry can see the value in it. So they're on board very quick, and they're like, the early adapters. But a lot of people still look at it today and go, well, I don't need it. And that's fine. But that's going to change in the next 3 to 5 years. So, and again, we've got some of our members who really benefit strongly from it because they use the tools to market the fact that they're in accreditation. Yep. They put the accreditation in a place on their website that can be seen. They talk it,
above the fold,
above the fold. They talk about, but they don't just say he's I-PRAC, because we can't be naive to think everybody understands what I-PRAC is. Right? We're not Coca-Cola here. So we have to understand that you have to direct people to somewhere where they understand what the benefits of booking through our company because of this logo. So you've got to send them somewhere, which is what I talk a lot about. Trust pages is one of the best pages to have on a website, a trust page, because trust is something that people look for. So as soon as you put something on if you put on the home page of a website, 89% of our guests book direct because they trust us. Here's why. I will guarantee, just through psychology of the consumer and the guest, they will click on that because they want to know why. They're intrigued to understand why 89% of people are booking direct. So you're sending them to a trust page. That's when you can capture them in the trust, because that's when you talk about why trust is important to your business and the values of trust to your business and why it's important. And then you can say we're I-PRAC approved and what the benefits are of I-PRAC and how you can ensure your payments and all of this kind of thing. Then you can send them back. Now you trust us, now book with us. And then you send them back to the booking pages. So you've got them from the home page to a trust page back to where they can, back to your product.
Yeah,
love it.
You know? But if you're trying to go from your home page to product, your bounce rate on your website is going to be too high and you're going to be missing conversion left, right, and center, right, on your direct booking website. So some of our members really leverage the fact that they're I-PRAC approved, and they do really. But some of our members, they come approved and they don't leverage the tools, so they don't get as much benefit as the others. But it's an affordable accreditation here. We're talking like a private owner is like $200 a year, an agency is about $600 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the other thing that we needed to make the accreditation affordable for our industry. Because not everybody can operate at a level where they can afford to pay like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for an accreditation. So we had to like make it affordable as well.
Well, and you have to look at it this way: is like everyone's wanting something. Like they want to, there's some sort of accreditation. They want to go ahead and get someone, you know, and there's some sort of add-on that everyone is reaching out to these property management companies and saying,
Yeah.
you really need this, you really need that. And, you know, and it's hard. You look at your annual budget and you're like, what makes sense? And you're like, all right, we only have so much to go towards marketing. We have so much that's going to go to here. And now, and these 5 companies are trying to take more, pull from this pot.
Well,
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it is. I mean, there's a lot of talk. I mean, if you look at the trends that have gone on in the last 10 years, you know, like property, like PMSs, like when that hit the scene, everybody was talking about PMSs, you know, it's like, that's the holy grail now. You've got on the PMS. If you look at now in the industry, there's like PMSs, you know, like barbershops. I don't know, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And then after that, then all of a sudden dynamic pricing creeps in. All of a sudden everybody's talking about dynamic pricing. Then all of a sudden you've got guest experience tools. And, you know, the industry goes on trends of like all of these tech stacks that people talk about. Like, what do you need to make your business more like streamlined or more profitable, which is the key word here. You've got to be profitable. There's a lot of noise out there. So you have to be able to come back to basic and think like, you know, do I need somebody to do my pricing? Should I invest, you know, in less in there and more in there? And, you know, but I think there's far too many companies who operate in our space are not profitable.
Yep.
Right? That's the big problem. You know, they think they talk the big game on social media, but if you delved into their accounts, they'd be in the shit.
Yeah.
Right? That's just the truth. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
You know, they're not paying one owner to pay a deposit back of another owner because they're using deposit money of somebody else's booking to do marketing, and they're not managing the company properly. You know, it's mismanagement of funds, you know, but that sometimes that's just lack of experience of business rather than, you know, intentional bad management. Do you know what I mean? So people look at the amount of money that they have available to spend. They kind of think, no, I don't have that kind of money. But at the same time, the industry's in a bad place because, you know, Airbnb have allowed anybody to enter the space right? Through no verification. You know, the site's gone from like, in 10 years, the site's gone from like 1 million listings to 5 million over 10 years, which is phenomenal, really, when you think about it. But if you look at the standard of some of the properties and the standard of the people operating the properties, it's very low key. You know, it doesn't give the hospitality industry a good name because it's, you know, it's just not, they're not managed properly. And these are giving the whole industry a bad name. So I think in the next 3 to 5 years, the industry is going to be really tough. And it will only be the professionals who know how to run a business will survive.
I think it's interesting, though. You look at your story, right? And you look at where you came from, coming into Cannes, right? Seeing what that market looked like. And I mean, ever since you said that, my question to you is like, 22 years later, what has your impact been in the community in which those businesses are? Like all of the amazing things that you've done, from the businesses that you've created to I-PRAC to you know, your influence in the industry, right? Like your influence online, your knowledge transfer, which you're always giving and sharing and putting out into the community.
Yeah.
Have you seen a dent in your market clearly in other markets? Like,
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah,
about
I
what
mean-
you just said, right? Like, if the next 3 to 5 years is going to be super tough, all of these things are vastly important to our industry, right? And this
Oh.
narrative that you hear John and I talk about every week, that you hear all of the members of our guests in our community and the professionals within this space, like, it's about growth and transformation, right, of the industry. And that includes that bottom pool all the way up to the top and
Yeah.
every house of cards in between, right?
Yeah.
I,
But we're in, but I mean, but the industry's in false growth right now.
yeah,
You know what I mean? The industry's it's in a trajectory of false growth. It's going to have to crash to then come and then to see who the good players are to build it back up. There's no way that this industry can continue on the growth it is at the minute, because it's all everybody's looking at it as like strong growth, but that's not helping the situation. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not allowing the hospitality industry of STR to grow the right way.
Right.
And we're getting a lot of consumer issues with it. You know, there's people who are not mismanaging companies, and you know, they're talking more about, you know, the number of properties is what verifies your success, which is a load of bollocks.
versus profitability, right? Like,
Yeah. Look, I mean, I know people here, they've got 100 properties and they're in the shit, right? Agents here in Cannes. And then I know other agents who I know very well, they're like on 40 properties and they're creaming it.
Yeah.
Right.
Making a lot more money than the guy with 100 properties. So there's something said in that. You know what I mean? You've got to realize that. But all of these people with, like, you know, like these Airbnb experts who tell you that this is how to do it and this is how to get to, like, you know, this is how to sit on the bonnet of a Ferrari in 10 weeks.
right.
You know, it's all bollocks. You know, brands take time to build, and you need to be a strategist,
Yeah.
and you need to understand trends, and you need to follow the right people to hear what they're saying. You know, you need to listen to people who've walked in the shoes that you're trying to walk in.
Right.
You know, not listen to the noise.
And partnerships, man. Come on, speak it up.
Yeah,
Man.
and
There's
and the right kind of
partnerships.
structured partnerships. Absolutely. You know,
Chris, I love it.
Mark,
How our guests, our listeners, our audience, how do they learn more about I-PRAC, and, you know, where can we go ahead and give them, you know, point them in the right direction?
well, they just go to the I-PRAC website, and it's all on there. You know, there's a resource hub where we've got like over 100 articles on there, all about why trust is important, why brand is important, reputation is important. And I think people need to start delving into the fact that they need to start building their own brand, whether you've got one property or 10 or 100. You know,
We'll go ahead and link link your it's i-prac.com.
I mean, if they follow me, I mean, I'm always putting out, you know, what my thoughts are on how to be successful in this game. But you know, I think too many people are there relying far too much on the OTAs, aren't they? You know, they're relying on the brand of the OTA. But if you think, okay, let's remove the OTA. I mean, I say that to people.
Yeah.
Okay, if we removed Airbnb from your business, would you have a business?
Right.
You know,
Great question.
Yeah, great question. And eight out of 10 would probably go no, because I'm like 85, 90% reliant. Now, over the next 12 months, that's going to be really troubling, because, you know, inventory is going up all of the time. So market share is going down. There's a race to the bottom because of dynamic pricing. And all of a sudden, people aren't earning any money. And then all of a sudden, they try to think that you can just jump over into the direct booking arena and turn the tap on. You know,
It takes a little bit of work. It's not that simple.
Money.
The direct booking strategy would probably take you about 2 years to kind of to transfer from, say, 80% reliant on an OTA to 50% would probably take you about 2 years, but a lot of work, because you've got to concentrate on retention and referral. It's not just about getting people in the door, but people have also got to trust in who you are before they're going to book direct. So there's strategies and implementations to do, and you've got to know how to run a business as well.
Right.
because running off Airbnb, it's kind of done all for you, isn't it? It's like that QuickBooks, or, you know, they do everything. They send the confirmation email, they do this, they do that, you know, they do everything. And all you do is have to put the guest in, service them, and then they leave and go back to Airbnb. But people are so naive to think that they can take a booking from Airbnb, put them in their apartment, offer them 10% in an early check-in and get them direct. It's fucking naive. You can't expect.
I mean, it's a step in the right, you know, for some, but it's not, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been a huge proponent of like a 60-40, a 50-50 split between direct and in distribution on channels.
You've got to be healthy. It's right. I'm not telling anybody to be 100% direct booking. That's probably not even.
You're leaving money on the table for most. Most people are leaving money on the table if you're telling them to go for 100% direct booking. You know, I'm not a proponent for that, but I want a healthy split.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I encourage people I talk to and consult for is you need that split.
Absolutely. You 100% need that split. But what you've got to ask that question is, if Airbnb left tomorrow, would you survive?
Right.
So that's your kind of breaking point. So you've got to be floating around there, or like, you know, like, or use Airbnb for downtime in your direct bookings and when you're getting premium costs. It's all about managing the business, you know, and not relying. It's all about control as well. You know, it's like, are you using Airbnb or are Airbnb using you? Right. That's the question to ask.
Yeah. What are you giving up for that convenience? Right. Like what, you know, because for a certain amount of people like that, you know, like there's a market for that. Right. Like, and Airbnb is going to be all they'll ever do. But right. They're also not necessarily trying to build hospitality businesses. Right. Like, so I think, you know, identity, who are you, who you want to be, and what you want to control your business, and the identity of your business is critical. Now more than
I think a lot of people in our space they don't take the business side of it seriously enough, right? They just like potter around and, you know, like a bit wingy on it. You know what I mean? I don't know what the right word is, but it just, they don't.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a side hustle as opposed to their main focus of income.
They're not strategizing. They're not doing P&Ls. They're not looking at it as a business, thinking what we're expecting the next 6 months to be. Where can we invest? How much budget do we have on marketing? Can we improve and increase more talent? Can we afford the talent? Right. You know, all of these different things that you, as a business owner, you have to be able to work in the business, but also know when you need to work on it.
Exactly.
And balance that out to a degree where you are in control of the business and the business isn't controlling you. You know, like, but that goes for any business.
Right. That's just great business acumen, not necessarily just,
you know what I mean? It's just good business advice. But I think the problem we have in the SDR industry is it's so easy to get into that people are just getting into it and then trying to work it out, you know, like the business side of it out, and they're getting themselves into a bit of trouble.
Right.
And listening to the wrong people. There's too much noise. They're making bad decisions. And then all of a sudden they've got a bad company, you know?
And there's a lot of shit advice getting out there. You know, you said it, you know, listen to the wrong people. You know, we're trying to, you know, we carefully try not to give, you know, have great guests on that know what the fuck they're talking about. And B, like, don't just like, we're not, you know, make 1,000 a night.
Make 6 figures off your cell phone, right?
Yeah, like that's not who we are.
But again, but that goes back to the other thing that we talk about, like in this industry, and the things that are crucial to like what we talk about on this show. This isn't an industry that is like rooted from people with MBAs, right? Like in, you know, that traditionally this isn't been, right? Except for like very organized hospitality, hotels excluded, right? Like that have been in that space, but like vacation rental, short-term rentals, this new, whatever we want to call these hybrid models of building in corporate midterm stays, short-term stays, right? Like all under the umbrella of short-term rental businesses, right? That could each of their own individual segments, like you mentioned earlier, could be its own business, right? Like luxury and being its own, corporate being its own, like, and the way that those businesses have to be run are very different and have very different needs from a business perspective, from a strategic perspective.
Yeah. Agree completely with that, Matteo. And I think what you've got to understand, what people have got to understand in this space, right, is that there's not a lot of rocket science behind it, right? Now, what you've got to understand with this space is, right, one of the key factors is removing uncertainty. That's what you've got to do, right? Now, a lot of people aren't getting on board with this, right? Uncertainty is the killer of conversion, 100%. Okay. Now, uncertainty can come from any kind of question, right? For instance, will the property exist when I get there? If I cancel, will I get my money back? Will it be clean? Will it be will the pictures be like what it looks like on the, will it be legitimate? Will I get there and be left outside? All of these like subconscious questions that a guest will ask themselves prior to booking is as the brain works in a way to protect you from making silly decisions. So if you're sitting on a website and you have no idea who this company is, and they're expecting you to spend like $4,000, the level of uncertainty is really high. Yep. Okay. Very, very high. Now, if you're buying a pair of shoes online for $40, you're in the comfort of your own home, you pay, the uncertainty is very low. Because if the shoes don't really arrive, I mean, I'll call them, but I'm at home. But as soon as you're going away from home, you're going to stay somewhere that you don't know. Right. You're with your parents, or you're with your kids, or you're with the level of uncertainty is here, right? And you're talking about the highest product, accommodation, right? Hotel, STR, whatever you want to call it. It's the highest product. So you've got the highest level of uncertainty. You've got to find ways to reduce that. And you've got to address the uncertainty and what's called the elephant in the room by doing that through your trust marketing and getting people on your website and telling them all of these kind of things about your values and your trust and different things. But removing uncertainty is it's exactly what Uber did, right, with their brand, right? Uber didn't invent the wheel here. Taxis have been going on for years, right? The difference between Uber and a taxi, what Uber came in, they just came and removed the uncertainty.
Right. You can call them and they're going to come. And you're gonna,
because now you know the registration number of the car. There's a map telling you how far he is away from you. You know, if you're in a bar, you can go to the toilet or order another pint, or I've got 5 minutes, I can keep talking. A taxi before was like, is he here? Is he coming? Where is he? Which taxi? Who's the driver? Too much uncertainty, right? People have come in and removed the uncertainty from the stakeholder, and all of a sudden, consumers are diving in, using Uber all the time because it works for them. They've removed the uncertainty. If you can remove the uncertainty within short-term rentals, you'll get the market share. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Well, trust, and it's all around trust. Like, critical. Like that's the brick upside the head today. Like because it is all about, all of those things go away, and all of those concerns are alleviated if they trust you. And they know that you're going to do what you say you can do.
And that's why you have to focus on trust marketing and forget about product marketing, right? Because once somebody trusts you, they'll look at your product anyway. But
Makes sense.
Trying to force somebody to look at your product when they don't trust you is like, it's like trying to get your teenage.
Well, it's sales 101, right? This is just sales 101. Like a good salesperson, like you build a rapport, you build trust, then you sell. And because they know you're going to come through.
But how many people, if you go and look at a website, like if you go and look at 10 websites, just pick 10 websites randomly out of the STR industry and go and look and just go through them and just see at what point you look, all of the uncertainties start clicking in the head. Just because they think that their website's nice and looks good, you're not addressing the uncertainty. So it's pointless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this has been eye-opening for me. I love this. We have to wrap this up, Chris. This has been great. Thank you so much. We're gonna, you said 3 to 5 years. We're gonna get you back. We're gonna follow this trend. We're gonna see where, I want to know where this breaking point is, when everyone's like, this is like, oh shit, we should have done this 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being a guest. You've been great. And we're excited to see where you're going and I-PRAC and everything's going. Thanks so much.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Coming on.
This podcast is a Hospitality.fm production.